23. Dicini. Dicini left the architect's cabin after a quick check-in with Lucius. The new state of the Foundation took her by surprise for the third time that day, as she eyed all the new additions. Never in all her travels had she heard tales of such magical places, where labor was rewarded with buildings erected out of thin air, where a place was separated from the rest of the world, like Solara's ethereal kingdom, but on Enora. A row of 15 connected houses sat at the foot of the steps on the southwest side. A cobblestone path ran by them to meet with the footbridge, then continued on the other side, where it split to run into Roshan's worship area on one path, and cut east to the edge of the high walls, where it crossed the other footbridge. Each row house had 2 beds. She had no idea what they were stuffed with, but it was soft, 2 small tables near a window with simple wooden chairs, and an oil lamp, all gifts from above. Archery targets appeared at the barracks. A combat ring appeared inside just at the end of the entry hallway. She wasn't certain, but she would have sworn the spirit towers had grown, and the gleaming mana pool centered the grassy field outside the cave now shimmered with the midnight blue liquid. In the same way, the architect's cabin, the master's cabin, and the apothecary across from them had all grown. A ladder in the master's cabin led to a loft. The bed sat up there, instead of the corner. The map on the wall had grown and appeared less like a painting, and more like she was peering down from a heavenly window. 4 high chairs surrounded the table. The apothecary's shop had an addition in the front with a counter. Pulo explained the design was so Roshan could stir potions in the back and sell them in the front when commerce with other villages, towns, and cities was established. It seemed the Foundation only needed 1 more rank to gain a trading post. In her technology tree, the trading post made trade possible. When she hovered over the picture, it read as follows: Trading Post, a structure meant for registering of trade with other towns. Merchants interested in carrying goods from their home places to the Foundation register with the keeper of the trading post. Each trading post comes with 1 trade registrar. As your Foundation grows in size, the trading post can be upgraded to a market with no limit on the number of stalls. The library was upgraded. The gold mine, quarry, and copper mine no longer held the divots where the laborers and party members had chipped away, so she assumed the goddess had replenished them. And what had happened inside the cave, well, it was too much to think about. Even the pool in the back of the mine where they bathed had grown.
"Hello, beautiful."
Dicini glanced around. She spotted Priya when the half-elf waved from her spot atop the cave mouth. She waved back.
"The view is amazing from up here. Have you seen it?"
Dicini shook her head. "Not in the daylight, but I'm glad to see you outside the cave."
"Gemini insisted I spend time meditating before he left. He wants me to be in tune with nature."
"I could think of worse ways to keep yourself calm." Roshan appeared to Dicini's right.
"If she meditates, perhaps I can assist."
"Probably wouldn't hurt. I think the business of her mind is second only to our leaders." Dicini grasped Roshan's wrist. "She's been dreaming about her former life. Maybe you could help her remember when she's awake so I suffer fewer rib injuries." Roshan flashed a rare smile.
"I'll see what I can do."
Priya leaned forward.
"I can hear you conspiring from here."
Dicini shook her head. "No, you can't. As you like to point out, you inherited the elven eyes, not the ears."
"Then come share the fruits of my gaze. The valley is wondrous from here."
"I can't. I need to go visit your friend to see how he fares."
"What friend?"
"Probert." Priya didn't give her the pleasure of a response, and her features remained stony. Roshan leaned in.
"I found him this morning before the sun rose. He knelt on the piety planks before the idol in meditation."
"He is growing on me." "Good. Maybe you could help him grow on her."
"I will not interfere. They must choose their own paths, and, since they are no threat to each other, it's best we stay out of it. The goddess gives us free will for a reason, and manipulation is uncouth, at the very least."
Dicini sighed. "You're right. I'll stay out of it as well. There's space enough for them to coexist, just so she doesn't find a loophole."
"Loophole?"
Roshan asked. "Another strange expression Gemini taught me. It's a way around a set of rules. For instance, Priya might not be able to stab Mulk in the head, But what if she tried to poison him? Would that work, since the wound is self-inflicted? Roshan ambled toward the hill, wrapping up and around the mouth of the cave to join Priya in the stony patio overhanging the cave. She spoke without looking back as she left. She would do no such thing. I wish I shared your confidence. Destiny passed the strange mana pool and approached the smithy at the end of the plateau. Inside, she found Probert in the back corner at the anvil, beating a piece of fiery metal flat. He glanced up. His hair stuck to his forehead. The forge they'd constructed only a day ago sat in the opposite corner, but a constant blanket of heat emanated from it. Destiny figured she'd have to bathe a third time that day. Pulo is letting you craft? How did you manage it?
I taught him some new tricks, and I guess he was grateful.
She recalled he was a higher-level smith, then shook her head at her lapse in memory. The business of the Foundation was pulling her fibers apart. It never stopped. When Gemini returned, they'd have to split the work, assuming he doesn't head out into the world on some other mission immediately.
Hey,
Probert said. He balanced the metal on the anvil and turned. His simple boots clicked on the stone brick floor, also a gift from Enora, as he opened a small hinged box in the corner.
Check this out.
He approached and unfolded his hand. A curved piece of smooth copper metal shone in his hand. He flipped it over, and she spied 2 rods and another slim piece of metal of the same sheen. What is it?
You know how Gemini's sword was always banging around his back when Giles made him walk around the Foundation with it for all those days?
Yes. She peered up at him, and must have found the answer in his eyes as clarity struck. It's a buckle. Probert smiled.
Yep. Dad taught me how to make these for belts. Same principle, really. One of the guys
He hesitated. What? He lowered the buckle.
Sometimes I forget what brought me here. I mean, I really like it here, and somehow I still manage to stick my boot between my teeth.
Probert, you can tell me. Let me judge if you taste your own boot leather. She reinforced the intention with a smile that wasn't wholly fake.
One of the guys who waited outside with me for the governor's men to come had a similar binding for his sword.
Ah, I see why you wouldn't want to mention it. She tapped his chest. But you know, Probert, if that event led you to make something our leader would appreciate, maybe you should see the path behind you as an illustration of Solara's will, instead of a curse of poor decisions. Although I'm nowhere as educated as Roshan in these things, I'm pretty sure she'd tell you we are products of the choices we make when the goddess puts opportunities in front of us. If you truly like it here, then do what you enjoy, and never apologize for gifts you give others. Probert huffed out a sigh.
You are amazing, Destiny. Here.
He held out the buckle.
Maybe you could give this to the master when he returns.
Destiny folded his fingers over the buckle. No. You will give it to him because you made it, and it should be lent the weight it deserves. After a long journey, I'm sure that sword has driven him crazy. Take credit for your work, but be humble. He bowed his head slightly.
Thank you. Again, your wisdom outpaces my worry.
Worry is the bane of the ill-prepared. Now I came because I was hoping you could help me with something else.
What's that?
The way you helped Moggy in the library. He has raised his intellect. I would like to experiment with the other laborers. If they show interest in reading with you for an hour each night, take them in pairs and assist them. Then, report to me on your early assessments of their capacities. Would you enjoy this work? Probert nodded his head furiously.
That's barely work at all. Anything to help you out.
Thank you, Probert. Oh, and please make time for your own education in the meantime. The number of crafting books in our library seems to have doubled. I checked this morning, and you could level your skills as high as 50 off the new tomes.
Wow, that's great.
He tilted his head to one side.
Is there anything you don't do?
Destiny took a second to consider the question. Yes, I don't fly.
Funny.
Probert smiled, and Destiny found it wasn't an unpleasant sight. The one-time siege leader often held an easy disposition. Well, she diverted her gaze. Validus is hoeing the soybean farm, and I want to check up on her. Gemini Fowler has invited you to join the clan, Solara 7. Destiny's ears and tail perked up. She clapped her hands and nodded. Probert stepped forward.
Is the heat making you giddy?
He gripped one of her shoulders. She snapped out of it. Gemini has reached out. I must go. Probert held her shoulder for a moment longer, and Destiny found she didn't really mind.
24. Gemini. The black pods burst at the end of the road, and witches danced their strange, intertwining tango of distraction as wolves launched, arrows flew, stones slung, and swords sliced.
Clan, Giles.
Shenhua, you're early.
Clan, Gemini.
Dude, there's a battalion of armored soldiers on the march to the Queen's Forest.
Clan, Giles.
Soldiers? Are you certain? When did you see them? How many?
Clan, Gemini.
Yesterday, hours after we parted. Gods, I can't believe that was just yesterday. Bunches of them. They're decked out in armor and rolling a supply caravan. Looked like they were preparing for a siege. The guy leading them chased me to Briarton. Turns out he's Kaim's lieutenant. I hustled down the road, looking for the best place in all the chaos to enter the fray. I stopped when Giles replied and wondered if I could fight and think replies at the same time. Split brain action might be a bad idea.
Clan, Giles.
Kaim's servant leading an army?
Clan, Gemini.
Not only that, but he dragged me into the forest of Arum, and I met the High Priestess. She's like a dark version of Jara. Burnt bark for skin. There's even an evil red tree. Turns out the governor has been serving Kaim all these years. Lavation is a method for getting blank minds leveled up so he can feed on their mana pools. I burst into the rear of a circle of witches surrounding Meslar and swung my beloved katana with abandon.
Clan, Giles.
Are you still in Briarton?
Clan, Gemini.
Yeah, the town's in the middle of a raid against these crazy shade witches. Bam! Just killed one. Gold is dropping like rain in the south. It's kind of badass, but I need to get out of here so we can help the elves. The Templar warrior, Meslar Tomp, provoked 2 more witches toward him, bringing the count to 7. This dude wasn't scared of anything. I kept an eye on his health bar as I picked out a target, raised my sword, and ran a bitch through.
Clan, Destiny. Master, it is so good to hear from you. Clan, Gemini.
You too. Good job with the foundation, but we need to figure out our plan. I can slip out of town and head east when we've pushed these bitches back to the forest.
Clan, Roshan. What? Push them back? You're going to run. Clan, Gemini.
No time for debate. I'm fighting right now.
Clan, Roshan. You plan to run off to assist a forest of ancient elves who don't need you, instead of facing this darkness where it dwells? Clan, Gemini.
It's a raid town, Roshan. You don't understand. It's always been like this. These people face this all the time. It's one big game.
Clan, Roshan. A game?
The chat went silent for a few seconds. I used them to combine a few charges and set my sword alight. Then it was fire time.
Clan, Roshan. I will hold my peace no longer, Gemini Fowler. Have you learned nothing since we met? Darkness must be battled where it lurks. Do you think those people want to live this way? Under constant threat? If you know the source of evil in the forest of Arum serves Underlord Kaim, and you have the opportunity to end people's suffering, you must face it.
Roshan might not have known this was a game world and that these raid towns were here for a reason, but after 2 weeks of virtual silence, she had a lot of nerve coming at me like this in clan chat, especially when I was trying to fight. I used that.
Clan, Gemini.
That's easy for you to say. I'm the one fighting right now. Did you hear me mention she was Jara's equivalent? I'd have no chance against her. A witch's arm thunked to the ground. That's right, bitches. I'm here. Now, bring your weak-ass crap to me.
Shade witches killed. 1 of 10.
I eyed the tank. You ready for this? Black blood covered his grinning teeth. I took that as a yes.
Shenhua!
Voices screamed with a spine-shivering excitement.
Clan, Roshan. We have had our differences, Gemini. Clan, Gemini.
Mainly because I chose to save your ass by breaking that crystal. Instead of replying, her thoughts filled the pain as if I'd said nothing.
Clan, Roshan. But I joined because you promised me service to the light. If you are truly a mythic, and you intend to return the light to this wretched continent, you must stop treating life like some kind of game.
If the witches are the darkness at hand, show them no mercy."
And just like that, the priestess read me like a blog.
"Clan, Roshan has squelched guild chat."
A game. Of course I was treating it like a... But hadn't I been through all this before? Was Priya part of a game? Decini? Giles? How long before I backed up so I could see the whole picture? Here I was, swinging away at these creatures in another dusty town, leveling like mad, grinding out XP, when I could have just registered the guild and skipped out. Why hadn't I? Because it's a game? I cycled between my allies, the Templar Beastmaster swinging his axe alongside the wolves, the white mage Liatra healing others as they tried to drive the dark beings back, a short man in plate swinging a spear like Bruce Lee swung staves. I could have run, but here I was, fighting, driving the enemy back so they would live to see another day. But why? Where was I getting with thoughts about game weather impeding my progress? Why had I concerned myself so much with understanding strange mechanics when focusing on the tasks at hand with Giles was obviously serving me? So what? It was a raid town. Glory be. Did that mean it had to remain that way? Would treating this like a real-world situation help them? If so, shouldn't that be my goal? Solara, I meant Nora, had plans for me, whether she forced them down my throat or not. Each time I served the light, I saw benefits. But if she weren't an AI, but a benevolent goddess, would she want me to level up at all costs or serve those around me? "Make friends," Lucera had said. I hustled across the road, trying to reorient myself to battle and kite a few witches. When I glanced toward the other end, I spied the old woman who'd held the basket earlier. She hid in the shadows of an overhang in the corner shop closest to the forest, favoring a knee injury, sitting still as a brick. The witches hadn't focused on her, but I suspected the only reason she lived was because the High Priestess had sent her minions with a purpose this time, as they had the last. For me. I changed directions to keep her out of their sight line. Then a thought crept through my head. If a witch spotted her, killed her, then fed, she'd disappear, while male combatants remained. Vissel said the witches barely sustain themselves here, so they feed and return to the priestess. Maybe to conserve their energy? Yeah, that's why all the raids. They have to feed. But if so many die, where do all the witches come from? How have they managed to hold this town hostage for so long? Then the last puzzle piece slid into place. I threw a glance at a couple ranged fighters up the road. "Move in. Surround them and cut them off. Keep them away from the fallen women. Don't let a single witch feed, then return to the forest." Seconds after I returned my attention to the witches, I caught sight of the fighters in my periphery, swinging around to take up flanking positions. I sneered at the witch closest to me. "The Shade Witches must die," I growled. "Clan, Decini, did you find my family? Clan, Gemini." I had to take a detour because of the soldiers. The short demon bared her teeth, then raised her claws. I prepared a devastating parry, then Decini wrote again. "Clan, Decini, you should have seen the magical changes when the Foundation reached Hamlet status. A row house formed. All these wonderful things. So much has happened in such a short time." My parry attempt missed and 4 claws raked at my pristine new armor. They penetrated and cut a gash. I lost 56 hit points. If I was going to change my mentality surrounding treating this like a game, I might want to survive. For weeks I'd learned from my stupid mistakes. This was the last time I'd make them. I'd come too far to regress. "Clan, Gemini." "Glad to hear it. I'm bleeding at the moment. I'll catch up later." Missiles flew from all directions. Witches howled in pain all around me. They pressed forward, their ugly, fat, orange-ribbed, clawed hands swiping around them with abandon. I used the wrong skill and my flames went out, but it still sliced open a witch's throat. "Shade witches killed. 2 out of 10. The Templar warrior raised his sword. "Come unto the might of the Templars, you filthy, stinking scum!" The witches turned, tail, and charged. The Beastmaster swung his axe in a wide arc, ending 2 witches in a single slice, and cutting one nearly in half. It was wonderfully gory. He stood straight, looking around, and laid eyes on the healer. "Liatra,
Throw Fowler a heal so he will be ready to take aggravation back from Meslar.
Shade Witch is killed. 3 out of 10. Shade Witch is killed. 4 out of 10.
Aggravation. Had I ever known what aggro was short for? The blonde woman in the white robe cast a heal and wiped my pain away in one shot.
Liatra Manase, human, level 29, white mage.
Thanks, I shouted. I circled the fray, taking up position behind the witches facing the main tank. I dipped forward, drew back my sword, and...
Priya Sky has accepted your invitation into the clan. What rank would you like to assign Priya Sky?
I chose officer with a thought as my sword went a couple inches wide of my intended target. Still, the witch bled. I liked witch blood. These demons gave me the creeps. The chill coursing through my veins when they were around annoyed the heck out of me. The hairs on my neck constantly stood at attention. Had it not been for the people of the light counteracting the effect, I might have gone mad. The sooner the witches were all dead, the better.
Clan, Priya.
Baby, sorry I missed your invite. I was meditating on the rock patio over the cave with Wolfie and Rashan. That wolf is so sweet. He loves to curl up next to me and slumber. I might have to replace you.
Ah! I shouted. A witch spun as I inadvertently stole aggro. Spinning with my sword extended, I activated Whirlwind, blew her back 3 steps, then got an air charge for my trouble. I followed up with a Hedusuresu to slice through her face, and my sword burst into flames again. Maybe that'll keep me warm. Ha! Time to burn, creatures of hell! I roared my taunt as the witches turned. A deep lunge and a vicious stab later, another dark witch fell.
Shade Witch is killed. 5 out of 10.
Incoming!
The Templar Beastmaster howled. I rolled away from the swipes of several claws and snuck a glance uphill. Numerous black balls hovered toward us. A scan of the area revealed plenty of fallen witch bodies and fewer humans, but they were going for the whole pail of clams now. Our renewed effort to block them off had drawn more Dark Sisters. Good.
Pack row, move up the road again. Fight at range. Tank. Aggro.
The Templar howled. The witches diverted.
Clan, Priya.
Jem, you still there?
Clan, Giles.
He has his hands full. Everyone please let him fight. He will reach out. Gemini, squelch your chat.
Clan, Gemini.
Love you, babe. Gotta run. I thought, squelch.
All chat has been muted.
2 witches' robes burst into flames as I swept my sword methodically beneath their loose sleeves. Life didn't always have to be all stabby stab stab. One witch howled as she headed for the hills engulfed in fire, but she fell before reaching the grassy incline. Her hair was a nest of flames as her back swelled and receded with her final breath.
Shade Witch is killed. 6 out of 10.
The tank raised a boot and kicked another backward. She slammed into a freshly spawned compatriot of hers, and they both tumbled to the ground. I charged forward, raised my sword, and rammed it through their stacked bodies so hard the tip clanked against rock beneath. The XP stacked as well.
Shade Witch is killed. 7 out of 10. Shade Witch is killed. 8 out of 10.
I raised the katana covered in black blood. Praise Solara for the blood of our enemies! The humans roared approval.
Your excitations about the glory of combat in Solara's name have earned you 50 light points. Raid morale, plus 50, plus 20 to physical attacks, plus 35 to magical attacks and healing. Duration, 1 minute. Affinity, light, plus 75. Light, 78 of 500. Alignment, good, just barely. Next threshold, light, plus or minus 500.
Like money in the bank. All the motes had exploded and the witch's feet stood on dry earth. I shuffled closer to Meslar. Hey, back off a bit and pull them with you. I want them in the center of town if possible, but definitely off the grass. Got it. The warrior tipped his head back and opened his mouth wide. Although I anticipated another howl, he began yapping like some kind of chihuahua. All the witches turned at once. A few covered their ears and squinted. They rushed the tank, who jogged backward, drawing them away from their sanctuary. All right, people, let's finish this. I swung my sword around and extended it in one hand, pointing toward the forest.
Circle around again. Block the way. Try to stab or shoot any motes as they open. And fight with all you have. I taunted and pulled the newest arrivals to me so Meslar wouldn't become overloaded. An arrow lodged in a witch's back near the warrior. A stone lodged in the back of another's head near me. When she stumbled to the ground, I spied the robed figure with the sling again. She saluted, then reloaded. Liatra threw heals to both of us, but a check on my party interface revealed her mana was at 20% and falling. I realized I could do something about that. 5 witches encircled me. I rolled away and kited them. Don't taunt, Meslar! I charged toward the healer while focusing on an item in my interface. As I passed her, I dropped a mana potion into her hand. She eyed it, held it up as I passed, and called out,
Thank you, Blessed One.
Word was out. For all intents, my party's days in the Anoran closet were over. It was fine by me. I was done hiding. The witches circled me again. This time, we did this little hesitant dance. The first one who moved would come away with no hand, and they knew it. So I spun slowly, casting glances over my left and right shoulders, waiting. They meandered closer, one excruciatingly slow step at a time, but I jabbed and held them at bay. They eased inches forward, probably thinking I wouldn't notice, but that was exactly what I wanted. Then they were all in range. Leveling my sword, I pivoted all the way around, slowly walking my feet in a neat circle, eyeing them in turn, gaining momentum as I measured them up. Once I'd practiced the motion a few times and was confident I could pull it off, I swung a Senpu strike or whirlwind, then repeated it, then again. Blood splattered, and on the third revolution and notification into the center of my interface.
You have discovered a new combination. Typhoon. Blow your enemies into the air in a small typhoon for 3 seconds. Then, bring them crashing to the ground for 300% weapon damage per enemy struck.
Blood droplets swirled to form a twisting red circle of liquid spinning around me, and the tip of my sword sliced through their throats and faces. The wind swept around us, my hair blowing in all directions as the suction pushed outward from my position. The witches' feet rose off the ground, and they flailed their extremities as they levitated in a circle, slowly at first, then picking up speed. Vertigo took hold, then my butt hit the ground. But I stared up in wonder at the lucky combination I'd just discovered, spun them around once more, turned them over, then slammed their heads into the ground.
Shade Witches killed. 9 out of 10. Shade Witches killed. 10 out of 10. You have completed the quest, the second time around.
That was all I saw before I swiped the message away. The plated figure I'd spotted in the previous raid was in the center of the fray, swinging that long spear in those blurry circles. He caught one witch on the chin, then dipped low as he spun around and swept the legs out from another. When he stepped toward the downed enemy, his helmet peered toward the sky instead of down at his target. The tip of his plated boot touched the witch's hip, then he shoved the spear through the center of her chest. When I turned to count witches, my heart sank into my belly. There were at least 10. More humans had fallen but were writhing on the ground, still alive, because the witches cut a swath to get to me. The chill of my evil detection overwhelmed the warmth of the light beings surrounding me as all the witches turned and converged on me at the same time. I readied my sword and mentally prepared myself for a whole lot of pain, then a trip back to the Foundation. But that was okay. Giles had been warned. This had been a good day. At least one of my missions had been accomplished, and I wouldn't go home empty-handed. Of course, I wasn't going down without a fight either. A scream echoed across the sky from the north as a blur zipped across the road. Lightning sizzled down in myriad fingers and slammed into the approaching witches. Their knees folded and they crumpled to the ground as a stun effect washed over them. The remaining humans hustled over and began running them through as they convulsed wildly on the ground. I joined in. And just like that, they were dead. I returned to the message in my interface.
You have completed the quest, the second time around. You've killed 10 Shade Witches, and then some. You have received 5,000 XP. Samurai Handguards of Kaze. Type, gloves. Slot, hands. Quality, very rare. Durability, 100 of 100. Plus 10 to Kaze resource pool for wind attacks. Samurai Hip Guards of Kasai. Type, hip guard. Slot, legs. Attaches to chest. Quality, very rare. Durability, 100 of 100. Plus 10 to Kasai Resource Pool for fire attacks. Bonus award, 100 points of light. Alignment, light, plus 126. Rank, good. Next threshold, light, plus or minus 250. Next rank, esteemed.
I clenched two fists and airboxed in a backward circle. Then I glanced at my inventory, ripped out my new gear, and started slipping it on. As I worked the handguards over the end of the chest armor that ran to my wrists, I spied the creature who'd saved my life zooming toward me. It stopped a few feet short and fluttered its imp wings.
Tiramanasa Monogwin, Imp Zapper, level 22. Disposition, endeared. With a disposition of endeared, you may bind this creature to you.
Hey, you saved my backside.
Yes, I am quite powerful. I will serve my liberator forever and ever and ever. Command me, master.
This was badass. It'd be like having a familiar of my own. I could roll through crowds of enemies, slam them with an epic stun, then run them through. I would power level like a wild man. Power level my people. A claw sliced through the imp's head. Time slowed. She seemed to hover in the air for a long moment, then she thumped to the ground, dead. I reached out with one hand. No! A single wing fluttered, then stilled.
Tiramanasa Monogwin, Imp Zapper, level 22. Dead.
The witch standing over her was covered in blood. She teetered a step to the left, then to the right, barely remaining on her feet. Her eyes trained on me. She grinned a mouthful of bloody, rotten teeth. My chest burned with hatred. I clutched my sword in my white-knuckled grip.
Shenhua!
She spat blood. I decapitated her.